Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit today about a little bit of cold approach stuff tied into a little bit of female psychology stuff. So the topic of today's discussion is just having to do with a woman's perceptive range around her as it compares to us as guys. And furthermore, I want the reason why I'm telling you this, and everything that I'm going to lay out today, which might be a little bit long-winded of a talk, so I want to try to arrange this in a logical manner that will make sense to you and actually give you something that you can take with you and use. But armed with this data, armed with this knowledge, like hopefully it will compel you to handle yourself in a more proactive manner when you're out there trying to do cold approach or just meet women. Talk to strangers, like all this kind of stuff. It's very relevant, okay? So I want to first start the talk by just kind of laying out you the concept of what I'm trying to explain here. And then the second thing I'm going to do is give you a couple stories of interactions I had with women just in the past 48 hours here. And then the last thing I want to do is try to wrap that up and just reiterate and talk a little bit more about the concept here, or like I said, the point of all this talking that I'm about to do to you guys. At the end of the day, what's the actionable little nugget that you can take with you and move forward with in life about. So just to start off here, guys, this is everything that I've observed in my life. And, some people may or may not agree with this, but I think, first of all, for any guy out there who's listening, this will really resonate with you, I'm sure. Us as men, we have these hawk eyes about us, right? We're very good at entering a room, or you could be even in a wide open, expansive area, and you are good at doing this quick scan, and right away, you've probably scanned the room within minutes of being in it, and you've just observed what sorts of women are around you and which ones you're attracted to. And it could be somebody who's clear across the room, or in some cases even 100 feet away or more, but you just have this way of perceiving these things, okay? Just having that awareness about you, right? And a lot of that makes sense, guys. I mean, we at our primal level as males, and even from an argumentative standpoint as daters and lovers, I mean, we are the pursuers. You are the hunter. It's your job to be out there doing the hunting, right? The woman, on the opposite hand, is very different. And that's the second thing I'm going to lay out here. And this is, okay, you might just say this is my observation, but I had a very good conversation with a woman last night. And like I said, the second story that I'm going to tell you that drives us home is a story of a cold approach that I did today. And I think just after thinking this over, I'm yes, this is very clearly apparent. But women, by contrast, everything that I just laid out to you about the male psychology and the behavioral types, they're kind of like the deer or the fawn, just prancing through the forest, going through, their daily, whatever they're doing. And they don't do the same sorts of things most of the time. So I've been told, and as I've seen, that we as men are doing. So they do not go into a room and scan the whole room and pick out which guys she perceives to be suitors. I mean, they're in this little say 5 to 10 foot range bubble, I feel where whatever they're doing, they're just going about their day. They're at the clothing rack, shopping for clothes, just in their little bubble. They're, maybe at a bar with friends, and they're just in that little 5 foot range, and they're not really as perceptive about what's going on around them in the sense of looking at guys around them. Okay. Yes, there may be a few one-off times here or there where just, it's going to happen, of course, where from time to time, some guy across the room will catch a woman's glances or something like that. But most of the time, what I'm trying to explain to you guys here, like I said, there's a reason for all this in the back of the discussion, is that women have a very short range about them, let's say. Okay. So if you can roll with me so far on this, let me take you to the next step here. Last night I was out having some drinks, and I just, normal Mike, being social as I always am, I got to talking to a few girls that were just in this bar, enjoying some beers where I was having some last night. And we just started a casual conversation, and just, for some reason, a lot of my talks, I love doing this stuff, and I don't know why it always goes this way, but we always end up talking about just our romantic endeavors in life and how we feel about love and dating experiences and all this kind of stuff. And at some point in the conversation, I had asked this woman, Joanne, who I was talking to, hey, who in this room right now are you attracted to, or like what sorts of like men are, catch your eyes or whatever. I was just curious. And she said exactly pretty much what I've already just laid out to you guys. She's like, oh, like I didn't even really like take a look. She's like, I was just sitting here like talking to you and like our other new friend that we had roped into the conversation. She's like, I haven't even like paid much attention to it. And she's like, even like looking around right now, she's like, I might look across the bar and see like 5 guys over there, but unless they're like in my immediate range ring, like first of all, and unless they're actually going to come up and do something about it and talk to me, she's like, they're not even on my radar. Like I'm not even like, that's not even like a thing like in my like normal like perceptive sort of like range, so to speak. And I found this so profound and interesting because, like I said, it's just such a sharp contrast to the way that I know that I am. Like I've always got my radar, scope up, and like I'm always looking and seeing what's around me. I think that's most of us as guys, right? Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like normal human nature. So once again, Joanne, in my conversation with her casually last night, reiterated exactly what I'm telling you. She's talking about this little like short sight sort of range, okay, versus like the guy long range, like very, very efficient, very quick at scanning a room and seeing all what's around him and all the women there that you might be attracted to. Okay, so let's take this a step further, and I'll bring you into today. So I was on the beach by myself, just having a swim, and same thing. Like, of course, I had like perceived my surroundings. I spotted a girl that was like a little ways down on her blanket from where I was sitting at, and so I was just trying to, think about, how I could, try to make a cold approach or break the ice or whatnot with her. And so, anyways, I ended up. I was in the water swimming, and her and her friend actually ended up like coming into the water at the same time. So I just kind of figured like that was the perfect moment to try to strike up a conversation with her. And the way that I broke the ice with her was that she had set up her blanket maybe I don't know, say 8 to 10 feet away from like where my blanket was. And I just overheard her conversation. She had a very thick like British accent. And I just thought it was interesting. So anyways, that's what I used. Like when her and her friend came into the water, I just piped up, said, hey, excuse me, I heard you talking to her a little bit. I was really curious, like, where's your accent from? It's very, very unique. And so of course that just, led way to me doing what I'm always telling you guys to do, perceive the energy. Like, is it good? Is it bad? Was she actually, participative? Like, did she actually like hang in there and like, put herself in closer proximity to me to facilitate a conversation? And like, thankfully that's exactly what happened. So we're bobbing there in the water for 10, 15 minutes, like just having a chat. And pretty early on in the conversation, it just, I certainly figured out, that this like wasn't a person that was going to lead anywhere for me. And of course, like I'm in this like vacation scenario right now. This person lives like on the opposite side of the world, and whatever. We didn't really have like the things in common that I felt I needed to have in common to escalate things any further. So all that aside, none of that matters. That was just kind of the end of the story. But anyways, so after we had our little like 15-minute chat, bobbing in the water, like we both go back to our blankets and this and that. And so we got back to the blanket like shortly thereafter, and she's like, she saw me laying down on my towel, like I said, about 8 to 10 feet away from hers, and she's like, oh, she's like, I didn't know you were there like before, like I didn't even see you. She's like, I guess you were sitting right next to me, the whole time, kind of thing. And I just kind of laughed it off and chuckled because I had very clearly noticed her, but exactly driving home the point that I'm trying to tell you guys, like she had absolutely no clue that I was even existing in the world, okay, before I approached her in the water, okay, which I just found so interesting because like 8 to 10 feet in my mind on a beach that wasn't all that crowded anyways today is like, I would just think that like people would see what's around them or like tune in, but whatever. I mean, a lot of it made sense. I was thinking back. I mean, she was tapping on her phone. She had her heads down. She was like, reading her book and doing whatever the heck she was doing in her little bubble for her little day. And that's just like the female being the female. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not making fun of it. I'm just like pointing it out. Okay. So sorry for the long-winded talk, guys, but there is a moral of the story here. And this is the part that I want you to take with you, is that you just have to remember, if you're going to be doing this cold approach stuff, proximity has like so much bearing on it, right? Like you have to put yourself like in a woman's like bubble, like let's say that like 8 to 10 foot thing. And this is, I mean, it's obvious, it goes without saying, but like until you like get into that like sort of space, like you have no way to do like what I'm talking about, like looking for cues, like trying to read her energy, see if she's even noticing you, like all this kind of stuff. So it's just like very important to know that like you're not going to be receiving any sort of cues or any sort of like, choosing signals, you might say, from like much further, I feel like, than that, most typically, the 8 to 10 feet. And like I said, it's incumbent upon you to do your job and get yourself into that proximity, because she doesn't even know you're there, right? Unless you've done just that, okay? So I know this is a big thing at the very beginning when you're first trying to get comfortable with cold approach. It's so awkward for some reason to stand next to somebody that you're really attractive to. I think there's a psychology that goes through all of our guy minds where you're like, oh God, like it makes you nervous in a way just to like stand next to somebody you're attracted to. But that's like a very first step for those of you guys out there that are just like at the very, very beginning of this whole journey. Like, this is a challenge I have for you. Like, one small thing you can work on. This is the easiest thing in the world. You don't have to open your mouth like a peep. You don't have to say a word. All I want you guys to do is just practice, like just get comfortable just walking in close proximity to somebody like that, standing close to somebody like that, in this, that makes you feel that sort of way. No, don't be a creep. Don't be awkward. Don't like, try to go up and rub shoulders with them. I'm just saying, like, put yourself into that like 8 to 10 foot bubble and just see what happens. See how you feel. See how they react. See if you get any reaction out of them, any kind of choosing signals, any eye contact, anything like that like might give you, the impression that like, hey, maybe it's okay that I approach this person, And like I said, that all that stuff will come down the road. But at the very beginning, try to practice that like proximity placing stuff, when you can. So, and the last thing I'll say, guys, that there is one small caveat that I want to put on this whole big thing about the woman's perceptive range ring, right? And I've talked about this before. I made a whole video on predatory behaviors. Okay, that's the one time where if you're exhibiting that sort of like predatory, like I'm following you down the street, I'm like, I've circled you like 3 times before I decided to talk to you kind of thing. Women definitely notice that stuff. Okay, that's a whole different sort of thing, but I want you to keep that in mind, because it is related to this topic right here. But like I said, that's just the caveat. Outside of you doing any of that kind of awkward stuff, which I hope every one of you guys like has the good sense in the mind about you to not do those things. Like I said, the main purpose of the talk today is just to get you to understand like that women most likely don't notice you at all if you're outside a certain like space range, let's say. Okay, so you have to do that job. You've got to get in there. You've got to get proximity. You've got to get closer. Otherwise, she doesn't even know you're there. Okay, so kind of interesting stuff. I thought this was like very fascinating to like put all these pieces together and connect all these dots and just kind of think about it and try to package it up and give you guys something meaningful that you can use in your lives. So I hope laying that out in that way makes sense to you guys. I hope you can remember that and implore this in some way, shape, or form as you're out there living your lives and you're out there interacting and trying to meet new people. So, all right, guys. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Talk to you real soon.